Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our talk today on year-round education. My name is Cindy Greathouse, and I'd like to thank you all for coming. As parents and or educators, we are all looking for the best way to educate our children, whereas they retain the most information and yet have fun doing so. In an attempt to address the educational needs of the English immigrants, year-round schooling was adopted in the 1800s. In the 60s, it was revived as a result of the dynamics at work in the post-World War II era. The returning soldiers associated with the baby boom and our space race with Russia, along with local communities attempting to deal with the increasing demands of the growth they were experiencing. According to Billy Buzzard and Suzanne McCrary, the failure of these schools dates back to, or these school schedules dates back to about the same time frame. In a 1958 report from the National Education Association, every school system that had attempted the 12-month calendar up to that point eventually abandoned it. Initially, these school schedules were embraced as an answer to many of the same problems that plague our nation today: overcrowding, funding shortages, and an attempt to improve the education process. But their failure rates are the exact same today. It disrupts family life, provides little if any academic benefit, and can possibly cost more money for a community. What exactly is year-round education? Well, year-round education and year-round schooling are generally used interchangeably, yet the two are completely different. Year-round education is actually adding additional days to the traditional 180-day school calendar. Year-round schooling, on the other hand, is an attempt to drag out the school year and reduce the summer learning loss. More often than not, our children still have the same number of instructional days. The time in school and the time out of school is just broken down differently. Most schools in the United States operate on what we know as a 10-month calendar. They start in August and they end in May or June. Year-round education, on the other hand, may have a start date as early as July 9th. These schools generally operate on one of the three most important schedules. They have a 45-15, a 60-20, or a 90-30. This means that students are in class for 45 days and off for the next 15, or they're in class for 60 days and off for the next 20. The largest split is the 90-30, whereas students are operating on this schedule are in school for 90 days and out for the next 30. In many areas, it doesn't mean that the school sits empty. Some schools operate on what's known as a single-track schedule. That's where every student in that district is operating on the same schedule and utilizing the same holiday calendar. Where it gets confusing and more disruptive to everybody, I would say, is the multi-track schedules, where they have divided their students into groups, and one group is in school while the other is out of class. They also recognize a different vacation schedule. The multi-track schedule could be of great benefit in large metropolitan areas where there are limited schools and many children. The multi-track would enable the district to actually enroll more students than the building's capacity. It could be a major issue for many families with more than one child, especially if both children are not operating on the same schedule. You could potentially have one child in school while one is at home on break. If you are a teacher who happens to be a parent, you could be on break while your child is in class. I truly hope you don't have more than one child. I'd hate to think of what that schedule looks like, especially when in the districts who operate on a 4-group multi-track schedule. They divide their children into 4 different groups. Okay, Group A might be on vacation this week while B, C, and D are actually in class. Next week, Group B, C, and D may be on vacation when Group A is in. I don't know. It's just too confusing. Daycare and summer jobs are also very difficult to manage under these systems. Okay, just like any other topic in education or elsewhere, there are pros and cons everywhere. Okay, although both sides attempt to prove their point with research, there isn't much whereas academic improvement is a benefit. One area of significant improvement was in the lower economic areas, where children don't have opportunities to encounter learning from different life experiences, the type of learning that doesn't take place in a classroom. In an argument in favor of year-round education, researchers pointed to the results of their summer knowledge loss of various groups. Doris R. Entwistle, Carl Alexander, and Linda Steffel Olson of Johns Hopkins reported in 2007 that children from lower socioeconomic backgrounds make just as much improvement during the academic year as the better off children. However, come to summer months, kids in the top third economically kept gaining, picking up on average of 46.6 points on the reading test alone. Now, it was a dramatically different story for the less privileged two-thirds. Kids in the middle group gained about 4 to 5 points on average, while those in the bottom third lost 1.9 points. This indicates we must change something to prohibit this loss. Other studies indicate that concrete materials, such as math and spelling, actually show more of a significant loss over the summer months. When academic achievement was found, the schools that had shown the improvement, they had provided additional opportunities for their children to receive remediation and enrichment. The students, during the breaks, the students had the opportunity to relearn material, practice skills, catch up, or experience non-academic enrichment activities continuously throughout the year. One study did show improvements in test scores. It implies that year-round schooling has essentially no impact on either math or reading. The primary conclusion coming out of these models is that failure to control for the school level unobserved heterogeneity leads to estimates that largely overstate the impact of year-round schooling on student achievement. This is consistent with the hypothesis that year-round schools are placed in high growth and possibly high-achieving areas. As noted earlier, year-round calendars have often been promoted as a fix for summer learning loss. Teachers are probably experiencing the biggest change. Although the pay typically remains the same, those who once made extra when teaching summer school must now rely on the district to offer the remedial courses throughout the breaks. That's the only way they have any opportunity for a greater learning capacity. In districts where the remediation is not offered or the teacher worked in other fields, he or she may see a loss of thousands of dollars. Some districts offer teachers an additional 1/3 to their contract. That means you work an additional 1/3 day. Now, granted, your pay is increased. Any other training that you want to go to or continuing ed, they do also help with that. Now, there are several districts who allow teachers to substitute at their school or elsewhere within the district during break. And they're offering these teachers more than what they would offer to the non-staff substitute. Teachers in districts operating on a multi-track schedule or where student schedules are staggered are generally sharing a classroom with other teachers. Trust me, this requires a lot of collaboration for use of the permanent fixtures in the room. I may want to use the bookcases for games while somebody else needs it for markers and art activities. So a lot of times teachers are living out of or working out of temporary storage bins. Those who are involved in extracurricular activities may find that the activity or the sport is still in season during their break. This presents difficulties for teachers, students, and parents. Teachers may have to forgo their break if they are the one adult facilitator or relinquish their authority as well as some of their pay to someone else. Students who choose to continue would also need to give up any vacation time while the sport or activity is in season, and parents are now required to determine whether the sport or the family vacation is of more importance. Additional research is not needed to show that year-round schedule provides any benefits over the traditional school calendar. The failure policy, as I mentioned earlier, clearly indicates that the areas who currently utilize these schedules actually have lower academic scores on standardized tests than the areas who operate on the traditional calendar, not to mention the problems for teachers and parents. According to Sir Ken Robinson, ADHD is not an epidemic. It's simply that children suffer from childhood. If you require a child to sit and perform low-grade clerical work for hours on end, they're bound to get fidgety. If educators would put more emphasis on what they are teaching, on how they are teaching the material than on what they are teaching, year-round schooling wouldn't be necessary. If we honestly looked into what we wanted our children to take away and remember 5 years later, and then made an honest effort to present that information in an exciting way, students would remember the information regardless of the time off from school. Thank you all for coming this afternoon, and I hope that you are now a little better informed about the year-round education.